everyone to Tier 1 training with Blair's Tech. Today we are going to be tackling a iPhone 7 Plus audio IC issue. So I want to kind of show you the things that you're going to see to determine that it's audio IC. So first thing is I'm going to go ahead and put it on the internet, which I'm going to move it so you don't see my password. Alright, so first issue 7 Plus, a lot of times 7, you will see that the Wi-Fi is actually grayed out. That is typical. It's not a permanent thing, but it will go on for probably about 5 or 10 minutes, and then you reboot it or just let it set, it'll actually come back. So what I like to do is I like to go to voice memos. So you hit voice memos. You see this? I keep hitting it, but it doesn't pop up to let me record anything, and just kind of locks me out. It just doesn't do anything at all. Another way of doing it is making a call to another phone that you own, and most likely they will not be able to hear you. You're not most likely not going to be able to hear them either. So let's go ahead and get this phone broken down and get going on this repair, and I can show you how to do it. Alright guys, so we are going to do an audio IC on a 7 Plus today. So first thing you want to do is go ahead and apply Flux. It does reduce the amount of heat that you need to apply. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and you need to address what way you're going to be applying your air and what you need to block off to prevent damage. So as you see, audio IC is right by the NAND. So I am going to put some heat sinks on the NAND. That's going to reduce the amount of air that's going to be applied to the actual area of the NAND. Alright, so I'm going to do, since it's a larger chip, we're going to do 365 heat and 70 air on our heating station. We are currently using a JBC machine. Depending on the machine that you use, the heat and airflow will be somewhat different. Alright, so let's go ahead and get this chip off. Alright, so keep it going in a circular motion. I'm blowing towards the end of the board, away from the NAND and stuff. It does take a minute to get it heated up properly to get it off. It's a large chip. And you don't want to apply air for too long because your baseband is right on the other side, and if you float that, you'll get no service, and you'll lose your IMEI and everything. You won't be able to actually use your service. It's taking a little longer on mine because of the amount of heat that the PCB holder is absorbing. Alright, so I got that off. Alright, get the heat sinks off real quick. That way it'll take the heat with it. So let's get in a comfortable position to work on this area. So I twisted it a little bit. So you kind of want to probe around to see what contacts are loose. And most likely it's going to be this one. Let's see. So it looks like I don't have any movement, but this right here is your C12, and that's normally the bad one. So we're just going to run a jumper on that one. So what we want to do is we want to reduce the amount of heat that we need to apply to get this solder off and get it nice and flush and prepped. So we are going to apply leaded solder to this area to reduce the amount of heat that we need to apply. First you want to apply your flux. Alright, so we're going to get us some solder. Now, I normally use Kester as far as solder, so it's pretty good stuff. So you kind of got to work it. It takes a second. I'm going to get that off, apply some more solder. Alright, so when you're wicking these pads, you want to be very careful because you can pull important pads. You will likely pull some pads, but most of the time there's going to be NC pads, which is more of anchors, similar to a ground. So you just want to gently wick it. So I'm barely applying pressure. I'm applying the soldering iron directly to the wick and just sliding the wick really gentle. Just want to take your time. So always make sure you're in a comfortable position to wick and to work on your area. Otherwise, you can damage some stuff because you're not in a good area to do your work. So just wick over here. So, as you can tell, it's all wicked. So next thing you want to do is go ahead and clean up your area. So, put this back in the spot that want to work. So we're going to twist it this way because there's some jumpers that we need to run. A lot of people run about 5 jumpers. So it'd be your C12, your D12, G12, H12, I believe. I normally just run the C12 because that's typically the issue that I see on this kind of board. I don't normally worry about the others. Alright, so next things to do is go ahead and run our jumpers. So let's go ahead and bring up ZXW so we can see what we're working with. We want to see what jumpers we need to run. So just give me a moment so I can bring up the diagram. So ZXW is the best thing to use. There is a subscription cost. I think it's like $70 a year. You can buy that on iPad Rehab. So let's go ahead and look for the C12 that we need to run a jumper to. So we're currently working with a 7 Plus, and it's most likely going to be Intel. So looking at this, the way you determine important pads from other pads is your yellow pads connect with a component on the board at some location on the top or the bottom. Your gray is going to be your ground pads, and your blue is your NC pads. So their primary goal is to be anchors. So it's more of to give the chip some holding ground. So what we're going to want to do is run a jumper to the C12 to the resistor or cap that it's supposed to go to. So let's click on that and see where it goes to. So as you can see, it's that second resistor right there. We're just going to run a short jumper right there. I don't think we're going to worry about the other pads. I just want to get the C12 on there. Alright, so let's go ahead and get your jumper ran. So what you're going to want to do is apply some solder to your resistor. Which, if you remember us looking at ZXW, it's that second resistor right there. So I'm just going to wick that pad right there because I accidentally got some on it. Alright, so let's get our jumper ran. So the wire we're going to be using today is, let me see. You can use between 40 AWG or 36 AWG. I typically use a little thicker wire. That way we can have some pretty thick pads. So we are going to apply solder to the wire first. That way it's ready. Alright, so let's get our wire placed in. So it's going to be your second resistor. I think we're going to go with a little bit of thinner wire. The thicker wire just kind of takes up too much room. So your thinner wire is going to be the 40 AWG. And when we apply the jumper, we're going to have to actually mask the area off that is exposed. So let's get our jumper put in. As you see, it's somewhat smaller. So I just normally tack it down. Alright, so what we're going to do is take an X-Acto knife and cut right at that point to where we don't need it anymore. So let's cut again. My X-Acto knife's kind of dull, so we got that jumper in. So let's tweak the pad that we accidentally got soldered on real quick. Just remember being gentle. Okay, so we got that jumper ringing. So let's clean up the pads, and what we'll do next is put our meter on it to make sure it's not connecting it with anything else. Always want to double check. Last thing you want to do is have to tear it all apart again. Alright, so meter. That's not touching. So we're good. So it's time to mask it. So the easiest way to mask it is to get your UV mask and use tweezers. I normally apply it to a Q-tip first. So you just do it like this. There we go. Just takes a little bit. You just want to make sure it doesn't touch anything. So let's get that put in the ultraviolet light real quick. Alright, so while that's curing, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and reball this chip. Alright, so typically your audio IC is not going to go bad that often. I've had it maybe one time on me. So most of the time you're just going to be reballing the audio IC that you have on your board. Alright, let me find the audio IC. Alright, so let's get this nice and flush. So apply your flux. Anytime you're soldering, you always want flux. Just take lead-free solder over it, or leaded solder, I mean. You don't really have to wick it either. Reason being is when you put the template on the stencil, it's just going to fill in as much as it needs, so it won't really hurt anything. So what we did do is we put tape down to hold the chip in place, which we do this with all of our reballs. Just makes it a lot easier on us. So I use tape, I get it clean, then I put more new tape down. Alright, so let's get this reballed. We are using 183 solder paste. It comes in a little jar. It's called Mechanic. You can get it from China for a couple dollars. It does last a while, so. Alright, so we're just going to find our stencil real quick. And we're looking for the 7+. Alright, so this should be a 12 by 12, so let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. So, it's a 12 by 12 chip, so easiest way is count the on here 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Alright, line her up real good. There's something in the stencil, so I'm going to get it clean real quick. Alright, so we got our stencil on there. So the easiest way is to take an X-Acto knife, and we are going to apply solder paste with the X-Acto knife. That way you can scrape it off. Alright, so take your tweezers, let's hold it down and get this heated. I heat from a distance so it heats kind of slow, otherwise you'll get your solder jumping out of place. Alright. So what we'll do, just going to heat it one more time. Make sure it's nice and flowed. We'll clean it. We'll scrape it against some paper. That way we can make sure all the pads are nice and even. Alright. Okay, so I had to let it cool off, that way we don't mess up any solder. So we are going to clean it real quick. And I'm using acetone. What is perfect is just fingernail polish, so because it's 100%. Alright, so paper, scrape. Alright, so we have the chip already. And as you can see, it's a perfect reball. Alright, so let's see if this solder mask is dry yet. Yep, looks like it came out pretty good. And we need to kind of even out some of these pads real quick. You do want it as flat as you can get it. Just remember, be gentle. Apply flux. The last thing you want to do is start pulling pads and get unlucky and pull an important one. Don't put the braid flat because you'll get it stuck on the board. Alright, so it looks like we're all prepped. The pads are nice and flat. There's still flux on there, so that works. So let's position this to where we can figure out where it sets and everything. Alright, so I'm going to show you how to find the orientation real quick. So we're working with the 7 Plus on this audio IC. So we are well. Let's see. It normally does that when it's currently open. So let's see. Okay, it's open. So what you're going to look for is this A12 right here. So A12, or not A12, but A1. Sorry. A1 is where the board starts, like where the chip sets. So you align the A1 with the dot on the chip. So as you can see, A1 is right here. So let's get the chip where it needs to be real quick. Alright, so we got the chip. I'm going to clean the top of the chip, that way I can see where the arrow is at. Alright. So you can see the arrow on there. And if you remember, we looked at ZXW. So you see the arrow. So that's going to set on A1. Alright, so it looks like we can heat it, but we want to get the heat sinks back on real quick. Alright. So, facing it away from the board, we got NAND covered. And let's get a circular motion and get this thing on there. We're using 365 heat and 70 air because it is a large chip. So let's apply some more flux. Looks like my thing keeps catching the camera. All right. Just going to nudge it to make sure it's flowed right. That's nudged. So it looks like it's good. And it looks like I bent my tweezers again. Cannot keep good tweezers at all. Alright, heat sinks off because it's carrying heat. Let's clean up this board a little bit. First, let's get it cooled off. I normally use my evac system to cool it off. Turn that off.